Your job is not to figure out how it's going to happen for you, but to open the door in your head. And when the door opens in real life, just walk through it.
I act because I'm broken in a lot of pieces, and acting gives me a chance to reconfigure those pieces into 1,000 different things that are positive for people to watch.
I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Because everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart.
I've examined what my motivations are, and the fact is I'm addicted to expressing myself in certain ways, and I have to do it. And I would do it if I was making 20 cents. So it's really about that. Especially now, I have enough money to live 20 lives, so I can't stop.
You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor go. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory.
If you had a day where nobody would recognize you,
I don't think I'd be that different, honestly. I dropped the whole trying to be something for somebody a long time ago. So I pretty much walk through the world, except when I want to be funny or I want to do something outrageous. I don't have any trouble being myself, and I don't have any trouble saying no when I mean no. I don't feel there is a, pressing responsibility to please everyone. I'm not unkind to people.
No.
I love people. I would much prefer saying hello and who are you and what are you doing today than giving a selfie, because selfies stop the world. They stop life. You then go, well, yeah, and it's going on Instagram to give people a false sense of relevance.
When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. And the only one I hadn't freed was myself. And that's when my search for identity deepened. I wondered who I'd be without my fame. Who would I be if I said things that people didn't want to hear? Or if I defied their expectations of me?
I'm constantly trying to figure out where I'm at and whether I'm corrupting myself or not, or I'm probably just, really too much about this, but it weighs heavy on me a lot. Self-respect is certainly one of the major problems in the world. Self-esteem is the reason for most ills, and, desiring what we don't have. I'm just excited, really, about always changing, about crossing back and forth across the river and throwing the hounds off the trail. I love that.
Just when we think we've got you, we know you, you're off on another route.
Absolutely. And if I feel like I've been figured out, boy, look out. I will become something completely different. Maybe I might not want to become something completely different, but express something completely different. I always felt like if the world is going crazy, I'll be calm. And if they're calm, I'll be the one hanging off the chandelier. I've examined myself on several occasions. Why am I really doing this? Am I doing this because I want to be famous? And I think there was an element to that when I started out, or I wanted to be a rainmaker. I think I wasn't necessarily seen as much or as intently as I wanted to be when I was a kid. I had a job, at least in my own mind, and that was to make my mother feel better. She was very ill in many ways, and so it was to make her feel better. And I think ultimately, I imitated my father. He was a very funny guy, but also I felt some need, and maybe I don't know whether they created it or I created it, but I felt the need to make them feel that their life was worthwhile, just by the very fact that they brought me into the world. Yeah. So from a very young age, I wanted to convince them that I was a miracle. Everybody's looking for bliss, in some way or another. And I think I've come to the realization lately that that bliss comes in waves, and everybody gets a certain amount of it But in between, it's still hard work
Yeah.
being in this body. you know?
And that it is the unwise person to expect bliss will be there all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you look for it. You look for it and you wonder why you're off the beam all the time or whatever. So I'm constantly examining myself. I probably do it too much. I've always overthought everything. My desire is my only problem in this world.
Your desire.
Yes.
To do your appetite.
My appetite, yeah, absolutely, yeah. To prove everything and to be everything. When you put something so in the forefront of your life, some desire in the forefront of your life, that everything else starts to suffer. I understand that. I understand that because I've gone that way and then had to pull myself back or whatever, but it's the yearning that is, can be something very positive. It can create wonderful things, but when it makes you negate your life and the people in your life, it becomes, or, you know, again, like when it makes you bear false witness, sell somebody out, it's just not worth having, you know, that yearning is the tough part. The yearning to kind of have that, but not make it completely consume you.
Was there a moment where you first sort of realized, like, I want to be a performer? This is what I want. This is the thing that I want to do with my life.
There was never any other choice. Yeah, there was never any other choice. From the time that there was consciousness in the body, I was looking at a man named Percy, my dad, who was the most incredible character that you'd ever meet. If you met him for 5 minutes, you thought you knew him for 50 years. And he wrapped everyone that came into our house in stories and jokes, and I became his calling at a certain point, and he was always super behind me. But from the first time I can remember, him just lighting up the room, you know, and him just like wrapping everybody in a story or whatever, and going, oh, that's the thing I want to do, or no, that's what I want to be.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job, and our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. I watched the effect of my father's love and humor and how it altered the world around me. And I thought, that's something to do. That's something worth my time. It wasn't long before I started acting up. You know, people would come over to the house and they'd be greeted by a 7-year-old throwing himself down a large flight of stairs. They would say, "What happened?" And I would say, "I don't know. Let's check the replay." I'd go back to the top of the stairs and come back down in slow motion.
You said something about your parents that just fascinated me. At a certain point, they were just waiting for the end.
Yeah, and absolutely lovely people.
Right.
But kind of lost heart, you know. My father lost his job, and that hurt him a lot.
Attrition of life had taken its toll.
Yes, absolutely. And I think at a certain point, they weren't enjoying it anymore. They were just kind of waiting around. And I saw that early on, and I said, no, I can't have that. I have to break that cycle.
A few months ago, I woke up and I suddenly got it. I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing, and how thought is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience. And then I suddenly felt like I was looking at these thoughts from another perspective, and I wondered, who is it that's aware that I'm thinking? And suddenly I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom from myself, from my problems. I saw that I was bigger than what I do. I was bigger than my body. I was everything and everyone. I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe. And ever since that day, I've been trying to get back there. It comes and it goes. It's like riding a wave. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off. But at least I know where I want to go. And that I want to take as many people with me as I possibly can, because the feeling is amazing. I am 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. No, sir. I dream about being 3-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey, because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search for what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. But these are important, these awards. I don't want you to think that just because if you blew up our solar system alone, you wouldn't be able to find us or any of human history with the naked eye. But from our perspective, this is huge. I had a substitute teacher from Ireland in the 2nd grade that told my class during morning prayer that when she wants something, anything at all, she prays for it and promises something in return, and she always gets what she wants. Well, I'm sitting at the back of the classroom, thinking, wow, my family can't afford a bike. So I went home and I prayed for one. And I promised I would recite the rosary every night in exchange. Broke that promise. But 2 weeks later, I got home from school to find a brand new Mustang bike with a banana seat and Easy Rider handlebars. Yeah, from fool to cool. My family informed me that I had won the bike in a raffle that a friend of mine had entered my name in without my knowledge whatsoever. So that type of thing has been happening to me ever since. As far as I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass.
I had an odd childhood. Yeah, we had some tough times. Honestly, at the beginning, when my father lost his job, I was pissed. When I was those things. My dad, how dare the universe? The thing was, he wasn't happy. He would come home and just, that damn guy, man, I tell you, one of these days I'm gonna, So I don't know what happened. Who knows? Maybe he was miserable there.
All you know is you ended up living in a car.
Exactly. Well, I ended up, yeah, sure. And like trying to be the adult and trying to take care of everything. But my dad was cool, man. My dad, you go, that's the one thing about therapy. They kind of focus you on what did your parents do? What did they not do?
Right.
What did they not give you and all that? And yeah, sure. I mean, in certain ways, they made me grow up fast.
Right.
But, the list of what they did for me was so enormous.
I believe that suffering leads to salvation. And in fact, it's the only way that we have to somehow accept and not deny, but feel our suffering and feel our losses. And then we make one of two decisions. We either decide to go through the gate of resentment, which leads to vengeance, which leads to self-harm, which leads to harm to others, or we go through the gate of forgiveness, which leads to grace. And your being here is an indication that you've made that decision already. You've made the decision to walk through the gate of forgiveness to grace, just as Christ did on the cross. He suffered terribly and he was broken by it to the point of doubt and a feeling of absolute abandonment, which all of you have felt. And then there was a decision to be made. And the decision was to look upon the people who were causing that suffering, or the situation that was causing that suffering, with compassion and with forgiveness. And that's what opens the gates of heaven for all of us. So I wish that for all of you. I wish that for myself. I know that no matter what I've suffered, most of you have suffered worse than that, but that's why I admire you, because you're here, and you will have grace because this decision has been made.
Somehow, maybe because of the things I've gone through or whatever it is, and it's not depression, by the way. A lot of people interpret what I've been through as depression. I have no hint of depression in my life. That's not true. I have sadness and happiness and all kinds of different emotions that happen to everybody, but they don't sit on me long enough to drown me. And I look at it all as colors and palette.
We are so trapped, all of us, especially those who have suffered terribly trauma, to think of that as a real thing. And there is a difference between real danger and imagined danger, and it's hard to turn that off. And meditation, for me and for a lot of people, has been a way to turn that off, and or recognize that those thoughts are just thoughts. And like clouds that cross the sky, they will pass on. And to gently pull yourself back to a place of peace and just to stop the spiral of thought. Man, we get up in the morning and we open our eyes and the show begins, and it's a thriller for some people, and you can't help but get caught up in it. And it's important a couple of times during the day to stop and go, wait, this is just as real as those thoughts. I am bigger than these thoughts. I am bigger than this body. They talk about omnipresence in church, and nobody really thinks about what that means. What it means is every cell of your body is God. Everything is God. So when you do good things, when you decide to transcend the negativity and attempt to do something positive for you, for your family, you are the heart of God. You are the eyes of God. You're serving the world with your work, with your effort. That is a Eucharist. That is the body of Christ. What's happening right now inside everybody is they're going, who am I? And they're depressed, a lot of people, because they're trying to hold up an image in the world. And that's what depression is. People go like, oh, Jim's been depressed and stuff. Well, yeah, I was depressed when I was trying to be the Wizard of Oz instead of the sweaty guy behind the curtain. But now I know that Oz is a character. And, I think everybody deals with that. Everybody walks around and they go like, why am I depressed? Well, it's because you're trying to be something for the world, and as soon as you let that go, better things happen because they're just happening. But it's not, now it's just sadness. Sadness comes, happiness comes. It's the weather that flies by in the sky. It doesn't sit on you long enough to drown you. I was two people my whole life. I was in the living room entertaining people, being a monkey, doing my thing for the company and trying to relieve my mother who was suffering. She had rheumatoid arthritis and phlebitis and everything under the sun that was nagging at her. And she was depressed. And I wanted her to be free. And I wanted her to realize that her life was worth something because she gave birth to someone who was worth something. And then I would go into my room and I would sit with a legal pad. I was a little kid. And I would sit there and I would try to figure out what it meant, what it was all about. Why are we here? What is this? And one day I read something from Buddha that said that all spirituality is about relieving suffering. And I suddenly realized that's what I'm doing in the other room. and I'm aligned. My purpose is aligned with this. So I felt incredibly lucky. I lose sight of that all the time. I get caught up in different concerns and ego concerns. But I'm so lucky to be a part of this community and to do something that is of value. And I really cherish that. And we are all one thing. It really is true. Can I speak to the person in the last row, in the very last seat against the wall? Is there someone back there that can say hello?
People talk about depression all the time. The difference between depression and sadness is just from happenstance. Whatever happened or didn't happen for you, or, grief or whatever it is. And depression is your body saying, fuck you, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me. And so a friend of mine who's a spiritual teacher has a really good take. His take on it is that they should change, you should think of the word of depressed as deep rest. Deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play.
Painting is one of the ways I free myself from concern, a way to stop the world through total mental, spiritual, and physical involvement. But even with that comes a feeling of divine dissatisfaction, because ultimately, we're not the avatars we create. We're not the pictures on the film stock. We are the light that shines through. All else is just smoke and mirrors, distracting, but not truly compelling. I've often said that I wished people could realize all their dreams and wealth and fame, and so that they could see that it's not where you're going to find your sense of completion.
And I'm wary of it myself, about my motivations, about my allegiances, about what I'm expressing in the world, just my day-to-day, contact with people. The idea that, if people come up to me and say, I love you, I try extra hard to give them energy, to make it something that isn't about me. It's about them and this moment, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm constantly trying to figure out where I'm at and whether I'm corrupting myself or not. Or because I used to sit up there, and open my arms and imagine a giant funnel of gifts come right in for the universe. And if nothing else, it made me feel more positive about where I was. I drove down from Mulholland Drive every night, that I went up there, feeling that I was one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. I was doing wonderful work that made people happy. I owned all that. That was it. I guess, what I own when you think about it is my faith. That's what I own. That's about it.
I've always wondered about certain things, certain ideas surrounding Jesus. One of which was like a puzzlement to me since I was a little kid, and that was when they say Jesus freed the world from sin. What does that mean? He freed the world from sin. So what happened eventually was I was in a moment of despair, no doubt, questioning everything. I do that from time to time, kind of get a little tumultuous in my head and have a little war, have little adversaries that fight it out. And one day it occurred to me that the adversaries in my head were the only thing keeping me from peace. And I started to let them go one by one. I consciously, as they entered my head, went, is this real? Do I even know this person? Sometimes you don't. You don't know your adversaries. You've never met them. You create these wars. And I started to let them go. And I suddenly realized what that statement meant, at least what it means for me, is that he freed the world from sin from his perspective. It's up to each one of us to free the world from sin from our point of view. And with that comes freedom. And you got to keep doing it because they keep entering. But that was a really wonderful kind of transcendent moment for me. I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous, but the meaning of life, you want to know what it is? Love yourself. That's it. Love yourself. That's what I think it is. Just love yourself. And be visible, no matter what the risk. Be honest. I had been given this little vehicle called a body from which to experience creation, although I couldn't have asked for a sportier model. It was, after all, a loaner and would have to be returned. Then I learned that everything outside the vehicle was part of me too. And now I drive a convertible. Sometimes I think that's the only thing that's important, really, is just letting each other know we're here, reminding each other that we're part of a larger self. You are the vanguard of knowledge and consciousness, a new wave in a vast ocean of possibilities. On the other side of that door, there's a world starving for new ideas, new leadership. I've been out there for 30 years. It can be rough out there, but that's okay. How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Because everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart. My choosing to free people from concern got me to the top of a mountain. Look where I am. Look what I get to do. It really is extraordinary to me. I did something that made people present their best selves to me wherever I go. We are the light that shines through. All else is just smoke and mirrors, distracting, but not truly compelling. I've often said that I wished people could realize all their dreams and wealth and fame, and so that they could see that it's not where you're going to find your sense of completion. Like many of you, I was concerned about going out into the world and doing something bigger than myself, until someone smarter than myself made me realize that there is nothing bigger than myself. My soul is not contained within the limits of my body. My body is contained within the limitlessness of my soul. One unified field of nothing, dancing for no particular reason, except maybe to comfort and entertain itself. As that shift happens in you, you won't be feeling the world, you'll be felt by it. You'll be embraced by it. The imagination is always manufacturing scenarios, both good and bad, and the ego tries to keep you trapped in the multiplex of the mind. Our eyes are not viewers, they're also projectors. that are running a second story over the picture that we see in front of us all the time. Fear is writing that script, and the working title is I'll Never Be Enough. No matter what you gain, ego will not let you rest. It will tell you that you cannot stop until you've left an indelible mark on the earth, until you've achieved immortality. Relax and dream up a good life. It's just about letting the universe know what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass. Take a chance on faith. Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire and faith leaps over it. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. It's our intention. Our intention is everything. Nothing happens on this planet without it. Not one single thing has ever been accomplished without intention. So I started thinking about my life, and I started thinking about this conference and what we're about, and I looked back and I thought, well, I was two people my whole life. I was in the living room entertaining people, being a monkey, doing my thing for the company and trying to relieve my mother who was suffering. She had rheumatoid arthritis and phlebitis and everything under the sun that was nagging at her, and she was depressed, and I wanted her to be free, and I wanted her to realize that her life was worth something because she gave birth to someone who was worth something. And then I would go into my room and I would sit with a legal pad. I was a little kid. And I would sit there and I would try to figure out what it meant, what it was all about. Why are we here? What is this? And one day I read something from Buddha that said that all spirituality is about relieving suffering. And I suddenly realized that's what I'm doing in the other room. and I'm aligned. My purpose is aligned with this. So I felt incredibly lucky. I lose sight of that all the time. I get caught up in different concerns and ego concerns. But I'm so lucky to be a part of this community and to do something that is of value. And I really cherish that. And we are all one thing. It really is true. I would visualize,
This is when you were broke and poor.
Right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected saying, I like your work, or whatever that is. And I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This is in like 1987, 85,
Yeah,
And
and I had nothing at that time. So it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things. They're out there. I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there. I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe. And I dated it Thanksgiving 1995. And I put it in my wallet and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff. And but then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on, I think it was Dumb and Dumber.
I mean, the Truman Show was another moment where, I had to kind of deal with, well, you're not allowed to do that. You've presented yourself one way.
Yeah.
And, it's a tough thing to convince people that there's something more, or that they might want to see something different. But I've always believed, all the way along, I've believed that it was about a spark.
Right.
It was about who you are as a person. It's about your soul. There is something about you that is attractive to people in a way that they want to sit and watch you for an hour and listen to you and listen to your insights. But it's about you and who you are. What is it worth? And that's what I've come to so many times in my career, in my life, is that I've said the safe road is going to pay off. There are many payoffs to it, but I can't be there and have my soul be on a completely different track. It's always worth losing.
It is.
It's always worth risking. And if this other side of me is not a popular one in the scheme of things as far as movie tickets go, then you know what? I'll find a way to sneak it in there. I'll make a plan. I will show myself. I will find a way. And even if I'm not as popular, I will live in that area. I will expand myself. You know what? I believe in the universe. I believe in the Horn of Plenty. I believe in the cornucopia, so I'm not afraid of Tom Cruise and what his movies do, and I can enjoy it, and I can enjoy Russell Crowe, and because there is so much in the universe. We all can feed from it, and we all there's enough for everybody. To risk being seen is the toughest thing in the world. We're all very shy people.
Do you feel like you're separated from the rest of the world and what's going on?
No, not separated at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Don't get me wrong, Jim Carrey is a great character, and I was lucky to get the part. But I don't think of that as me anymore.
You don't? Not at all?
Not really, no. I used to be a guy who was experiencing the world, and now I feel like the world and the universe experiencing a guy.
You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices: love or fear. Choose love, and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart.